Alright, let's go ahead and look at our do now. Looking at our do now, we have the product of a quotient of x and y. The product of x and y. The product of x and y, that would be x times y. X is a negative and y is a positive. So quick review, that means that we're going to get a negative answer. Looking at the second one, we have the quotient of x and y, so x divided by y. Here we see they're both negative, so we have a negative divided by a negative. Quick review, that should be a positive. We have the product of x and y, so we have x times y. We have a negative and a positive again, so that's going to be a negative. And finally, we have the quotient of x and y, where x and y are both negative. So we have a negative divided by a negative, which again is a positive. Right, let's flip our classwork for today. Today's AMKipsters will be able to apply rational number multiplication, slash division rules, to real world problems. Alright, so go ahead. The first thing that I want you to do is go ahead and in the problem below, or in the space below, write a problem that involves integer multiplication. Alright, so that means that I do want to have a positive, at least one positive and one negative value involved. So go ahead and pause the video, do that now. If you need a hint, think about some of the things that would cause negative values. A lot of times that's going into debt, borrowing money, putting money on a credit card, things like that. Multiplication would be repeatedly doing that at the same thing. Moving backwards or going down would also be that type of thing. Okay, just a couple of quick examples here that might be similar to something that you came up with. It says I borrow $3 per day from a friend for 6 days. I swim down 3 meters per second for 6 seconds. Go ahead and now write down the relationship, write down the expression that represents yours. So for both of mine, my expression is I have negative 3 times 6. Alright, now I want you to take your word problem and just ever so slightly change it. Replace the integers with non-integer rational numbers, fractions or decimals. So just a quick change on yours. For example, for my problem, I might say I borrow $3.50 per day. Or I might say I swim down 3.5 feet per second. So go ahead and fix yours. And then go ahead and write your expression. So again, for mine, borrow 3.5, that's a negative $3.5 of net value times 6 days. And for this one, it's a little bit different. I have a negative 3.5 for swimming downward times. This one has two rational numbers that are non-integers times 4.5 seconds. Would the process be different for solving the second problem? Be any different than the process used for solving the first? Go ahead and write down your answer and explain. So your answer should be no. This should be no different. Multiplication and division rule. Multiplication rules are the same. The situation hasn't changed. Just the values. Right, just a reminder about our rules for multiplying rational numbers. The same as rules for multiplying integers. So we multiply the absolute values. And positive times positive or negative times negative gives you a positive, and a negative times a positive or positive times a negative gives you a negative. Alright, over here it gives you an example. In 1 year, Melinda's parents spend $2,640.90 on cable internet. If they spend the same amount each month, what is the resulting monthly charge in family income? So here we're taking the $2,640.90. We're taking 1 year, so we're breaking it up into 12 different months. That was a spend of negative $1,260, and so we want to go ahead and go through and do this division. So $2,640.90 divided by 12, and 2 times 24, 2, 4. That's going to be exactly 2. No remainder. Bring down the 0. Goes in 0 times. Bring down a 9. Goes in 0 times. Bring down the 0, this goes in. 7 times. So we get approximately, it's going to give me 90 would be 84. So approximately $220.08. Negative, because we have a negative divided by a positive. Rules for dividing, very similar to that of multiplication. Divide absolute values. And positive divided by a positive and a negative divided by a negative both result in a positive answer, and a positive divided by a negative or negative divided by a positive give you a negative answer. Alright, flip on over to your partner work and answer the problems on the partner work. Alright, let's quickly walk through the context of this problem and what exactly is happening here. Jeremy is selling plants. We're looking for, we have a chart here that tells us how much individual plants cost and what the total would be. We're being told over here whether it's paid or not, so if it's not paid, then that person is in debt to the person selling the plants. Jeremy's who's selling the plants. So that's worth keeping in mind. Alright, go ahead and walk through the first couple of problems and then probably stop and check after the first 2 problems to see if you're on the right track, and then go ahead and finish the rest. Alright, so the first one talks about our tulips. She has 2 plants. The price per plant is $4.25. This is $2 times, this is what her change is going to be, so this is going to be a negative $4.25 to her bank account. So we have this multiplication here. This is going to be negative $8.50. This is my numerical answer. And our quick explanation is the change to the bank account would be negative. Our next one says Mr. Clark wants to pay his order with a $20 bill, but Jeremy does not have the change. Jeremy tells Mr. Clark that he will give him the change later. How will this affect the total amount of money that Jeremy collects? Explain. Well, rational number represents the change that must be made for Jeremy to collect. Alright, so he gives a $20 bill But Jeremy is going to owe Mr. Clark whatever's left over. This means that he'll collect more money than normal, but he'll owe Mr. Clark money. What rational number represents the change that must be made to the money that he collects? So we need to figure out how much Mr. Clark makes. So Mr. Clark makes 5 times $2.25, which is equal to $11.25. If he pays with a 20 and he doesn't give him change, $11.25, that's going to give us $8.75. But that's money that he's going to owe Mr. Clark, so that's going to be a negative $8.75. He owes Mr. Clark. Alright, hopefully that's got you started and moving. Go ahead and jump through the rest of the problems. Alright, looking through the remaining answers, we have, first up here we have Susie. As we look at what Susie does, she ends up borrowing money from her allowance, so she ends up losing over 5-week period 50 cents of her allowance, so that's why we get a negative value. So looking at this, the grandparents changed their order, so we have a couple multiplications in addition to do here. Their old order would have been $15. Their new order would have been $375 times 3, which is $11.25, plus the $2.25. That gives me $13.50. The change in their order is going to be $1.50. Jeremy approaches the people who haven't bought their plants. When we look at this, we're going to be splitting up that $14.40. Looking at the average cash donation, so splitting amongst the 3 different people who just donated. On average, that's going to be $4.80. Jeremy spends 1 week collecting orders over 22 people. What's the average amount of the sale? We've got $270 divided by 22. Gives me approximately $12.27. Alright, flip on over to your alone time and get your work done.